Scotty Scheffler training aid. I've got a couple spare at home that I want to put on. A couple of I'm trying to speak to manufacturers to get an exact replica of my Gamer 7 irons from each set. I want a corresponding one of those. I'm pathetic, aren't I?
Yeah. I just saw you had a wave. It came over and went, I'm terrible.
Gotcha.
I'm a bad bloke.
I'm not bad. I'm just sad.
Yeah, it's sad. Hello, welcome to the episode of Kickpoint, the Golf Gear Show. Thank you for joining us for the hour or more, probably more, of equipment chat. My name's Dan. I'm joined, as always, by friend, colleague, PGA Pro. He's Joe the Pro, who keeps getting recognised in public, big man.
Yeah.
You're getting pulled to one side by the great and good of Devon, North Devon.
I'm huge, yeah. If I go near a golf facility, we've become sort of...
You. I've not been picked up not in Tesco yet. I've not been
That's
pulled
because
yet.
they think you're James Madison, don't they? That's what happens there.
Well, surely I'll get pulled then.
Yeah,
you're James
or
Madison?
maybe you're too unapproachable.
Yeah.
Because of your surliness on the pod.
Yeah. No, I make sure my face says do not approach.
Yeah, no, I got pulled a few times. Royal North Devon, 3 in a day. We took the kids to hit some golf balls. Fella came over when I was hitting some balls and asked me a question about something and just wanted to say hello. So the kids are like, ooh. And then another fella, as we were walking off, joined us to walk off to say hello and say love this and love that. Then I got flagged on the car park. Someone wanted me to ask me something about lab putters.
All in one day.
All in the same trips. The kids think I'm like Mr. Beast. Just tremendous.
You're the Mr. Beast of the golf podcasting world, I'd suggest.
I don't think that's fair at all. But
the lads from the Chipping Forecast. You're the big podcast.
Their big podcast. We're working on it.
Getting there.
Can I say you look tremendous, Dan?
Oh, green's my favourite colour.
You do love green.
I love green.
Your Addy Originals setup, was that?
That was a green cashmere jumper.
Green. You love
but this is from Resort.
Well, it's a collab, isn't it? It's Adidas and Resort.
My two favourite things. And look at the back, everybody.
For those who are listening, Bellata in big letters. Cool little
it's a really cool
retro
little
reference.
So cool that I'm wearing it through the hottest day of the year so far.
Yeah, you're willing to
sacrifice
your health for the vibe here. Yeah.
I will look really clammy and sweaty in a bit. But thank you, Joe. It's my first time wearing it. So thank you to our friends at Resort for sorting us out there.
Yeah,
they've done collabs with Adidas. They stock all the Originals gear and then they've got some fun. I was wearing one of their own t-shirts last week.
I'm still trying to fathom it out. So they're an independent retailer themselves and they have their own gear, don't they? And they've got a store in London that do a lot of collab stuff that's really cool and just have some...
Because this is this jumper that Adidas bought out. It's only like 40 quid. And it's one of the best golf garments I've ever. My mates have it. It's on and off the course.
Proper versatile,
got all the colours.
Yeah.
It's versatile as anything. And it's not mad expensive. And Resort have put a little bit of flair on it. So,
and when you're out and about in Solihull and some girl asks you what Bellata means on the back, you can talk about the beefwood tree.
It's all adding up.
Coagulated latex.
Yeah.
They love that.
Do they?
From memory.
If you're into coagulated latex.
Yeah, you've got all sorts of icebreakers there. So yeah, you're quids in, mate.
Brilliant. So thank you for that. And I do feel great. If I pass out, hey, it is what it is. Coming up this week, we've got a chat about training aids to start because I feel like we're not giving that enough love and attention despite, I remember having a rant about people needing to use them. So you're going to talk about some useful ones people can be using.
Yep.
Some great Asteropods have come in over the last couple of weeks. So we're going to do something of an Astropod special. I've got at least 3 I want to talk about today, which we can gloss over or go into detail on. But I must say, Joe, our audience who are excellent, you there. I was looking at the wrong camera again. That's my camera. Are asking us better and better questions as the weeks go on. We had a couple come in today again on our filming day, which is cool.
Techier. People thinking outside. I think I've got some people thinking like me now as well.
Yeah,
people thinking outside of the box.
And
listeners. People are questioning reality and really trying to push the boundaries. Cool. I like it. I really like it.
So we're going to do a handful of them today. And then the Whitby, Jack Nicklaus. This is going to be really fun because we want to do...
It's not current.
No. I mean, I'd like to know what driver he hits during the opening ceremony at the Augusta.
Last time it was a QI10 LS with a graphite design shaft.
You pervert.
You're welcome.
You're so weird.
You're welcome.
That's weird to know.
You're weird. You're wearing a jumper. It's 40 degrees.
Yeah, well, I look great. I've lost my train of thought. Last time we did a proper retro one was Nick Faldo, and I really enjoyed that one. That was months and months
we had a guy.
and months
do you remember the guy who sent in like pictures? He was doing Faldo's bags.
Oh, sugar, yeah.
Himself, and he kept sending in pictures.
He was like the first man who was like gave us any correspondence.
Ever spoke to us. Yeah, it was really cool and was really useful as well.
You know who you are, so thank you for that.
Yeah,
so we're going even further back in time. I'm excited for this because I have got no idea. dear. So that's coming up at the end of the episode, and it's an exciting one, Joe. So let's get stuck in to some training aids. I had a rant a while ago about people at the driving range not getting the basics right and just whacking balls. And there are things that can help you try and get the basics right, or at least allow you to go to the driving range with some intent.
Correct.
I don't use anything. So I'm a bad person. I use an alignment stick.
Didn't I get you a training grip? Or
I use my training grip, so I'm not preaching and not doing it myself. I am trying myself.
If any more proof were needed, you were struggling with your game a bit. I don't know how much you've been using your training grip. But
every time I go to the range.
Well, so it went on. You've been using it when you go to the range.
Desk.
And now you've broken 80, three games on the spin. Coincidence or getting the basics right?
Aim point.
Aim point, Aim point. Could be aim point. Could well be aim point.
Anyway, you've got some examples to share to the folk that you use and things. I just think just pass on some knowledge, because if you're struggling at the minute or want something to work on at the range, here are the things.
Did you say you have alignment sticks?
Yeah, don't use them as often as I should. I don't know how to use them effectively enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, we could do a little bit on that, because there's a number of ways of doing that. Let's start with that then. So alignment sticks are
basics.
They should be, in my opinion, if you're looking to be a better golfer or as good a golfer as you can, that should be a non-negotiable in your setup. You should actually, and we've spoken about alignment stick covers. That's essentially if you've got alignment sticks, because no one wants a scratch driver.
Don't roof your driver.
Yeah, so there's just so many ways you can use them. If we're talking long game, primarily alignment's great. So I like to have one set up just on the outside of the golf ball to give me an idea of the ball to target line and what a kind of a straightish takeaway would look like, and club face alignment. So that's a multi-useful one to have there. Then I also like to have one along my toe line to make sure I'm standing parallel to that ball to target line. I told you about my problem with getting it dead parallel because my eyes don't really work, and I don't, like in Father Ted where he doesn't get perspective, where it's like those sheep are small, but those ones are far away. So he doesn't get, I couldn't get
top reference
parallel lines in my head right, because if you put two alignment sticks down parallel to one another and they're 2 foot apart, right? In the distance, the left-hand one is like 20, 30. By the time it gets to where it is in the distance, because of the perspective, it always baffled me. So I then create some cross pieces to make sure that those two...
So you weren't setting them up parallel yourself? Yeah, that's my problem. I feel like I'm like this is a good thing.
Yeah,
Go on,
so I then there's these little cross pieces you can get, like junctions on Amazon, where they're basically... It's like a circle with a cross cut into the circle, indented in there, so you can get perfect right angles of your alignment sticks. Yeah, so then I measured the distance I wanted to be from my 6-iron, and I cut down another spare alignment stick to the right to 2 equal lengths, so I basically create a rectangle that I stand one side of to hit the balls, and then my ball is in the far end of the rectangle. You kind of get it. So yeah, that's one way of doing it. Alignment is absolutely critical. You can have the best golf swing in the world, and if you're not pointing it in the right direction, it's a complete waste of time. And then you'll see the ball going in the wrong direction, and then you'll start making compensations. So you can actually just create a whole host of swing problems simply by not pointing in the right direction. Because you could, like I said, you could have a great swing, you're aiming 20 right, you keep seeing the ball go 20 right, you might strengthen your grip up, you might start swinging over the top, you might start over-releasing it. So you can't, again, as we've said, you cannot complain about any swing problems if you're not prepared to take care of the basics.
And it's just, if you take anything away from however many episodes of the podcast it's been, it's that. Cricket, I can't score a run at the minute, Joe.
You had a batting lesson, didn't you?
I said to the guy, I was like, right, in golf, the way I got my golf better this year was getting my grip somewhere and everything neutral and happy. Do that with my cricket. With my cricket now, stance, trigger, where's my head, stuff like that.
Basics.
And now I know in my head, I'm in a good spot. Now just watch the ball and hit it. And it's the same in golf. If I set up right, swing the thing.
And as I've said before, look at all the variations in method you see on tour, from Scheffler's footwork. McIlroy swings it different to Adam Scott, Furyk, Chris Kirk. There's a lot of different actions. Chris Kirk, I don't know where that one came from. But there's a lot of different actions.
Couldn't put him out of the crowd.
There's a lot of different actions floating around that work incredibly effectively at an elite level. But the thing that ties them all together is they've all covered off. They all point in the right place. Their ball positions and there's not even necessarily a right ball position if we're going on ball position. but it's
A consistent
one, so they know how they're delivering it, and they'll check on that time after time. You can use alignment sticks for that as well. So talk about going up your toe line with an alignment stick, cross that, so go at right angles to that, so the alignment stick kind of points between your feet, and the other end of it is pointing at the back end of the ball, so that'll tell you where in relation in your stance that ball is. So you need to keep that consistent. So you can always, a lot of top professionals talk about recalibrating. At the start of every session, they will recalibrate. They will get their alignment set, they will get their ball position set, and the first 10, 15 minutes of most sessions of any top pro will be just getting stuff lined up, making sure those tiny basics are in place, and then you can start working on stuff around that. But again, as we've said, you cannot possibly, in your right mind, think you're fine to work on a shallowing or extra hinge or lag if none of the basics are in place. So there's the ways of using alignment sticks.
I like the phrase recalibrating.
Yeah, I like that, because I use that myself for putting. I always used really strong putter, and I would never ever start a putting practice session without putting my putting mirror down on a straight 6-foot putt with alignment stick for my toes again. So I could see my face was square, my feet were square, my eyes were over the ball, and my path was pretty decent. 10 minutes of that, just little bits of maintenance. You don't have to do it loads, but if you do little and often, it sticks, and it's really, really important. Back to alignment sticks, another great one that I see a lot of players using. Tommy Fleetwood loves this one, or two more that Fleetwood loves. Start line. So if you walk out, see where your ball is on the ground, look where your target line is, walk out 10, 12, 20 feet, whatever. Stick that alignment stick in the ground.
When safe to do so.
When is safe to do so, yeah. And this is particularly if you're working on shape. So if you're someone who's fading the ball too much or cutting it too much, and you're trying to train an into-out path to try to turn the ball over a little bit more, well, then you've got a perfect visual reference. I've got to start the ball right of that. So then you can keep a track on where your ball is starting, and you've got a reference point. So that's another great way of using it for start line. You've also got Tommy Fleetwood when he puts it in his little plane mate, where he will set that angle. So it's a contraption that sits behind him that stops him taking it too much from the inside or getting too much underneath. And you can actually use it the other way if you're someone who comes over the top, which might be more prevalent. He keeps his hands outside and his club outside of that shaft. You could set it up the other way, where you move it a little bit further out and you make sure your club stays under that plane. So there's so many ways of, I'd say that one again, similar to the start line one, is more of an in-swing one. We're talking a lot about basics and fundamentals and setup, but beyond that, there are other uses for alignment sticks.
Can I ask one? You might have mentioned it. I switched off slightly.
Good to know. Just by the way, what's going on here? Ria's eating a foot-long Subway with sunglasses on in a 30-degree cupboard. That's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
If only we could turn the cameras around, The production team
we'll
lost us the heat. To train distance stood away from the ball.
Yeah.
I just sort of vibe that, and I feel like when my game goes wrong, I end up standing too close to the ball, and I don't have a reference point.
But how would you know you're too close to the ball if you don't know, if you've never measured where you should be?
Exactly.
Yeah. So someone like Xander Schauffele, Ian Poulter, Paul Casey was the first one I heard of this, where he used his 6-iron. So he'd have a toe line. He'd use clubs before alignment sticks were a thing, weirdly. So he'd use a club for his toe line alignment, and then he'd have his 6-iron or one of his irons, one of his mid-irons, that he would draw Sharpie marks on. So he would lay that at right angles. So you've got your toe line
down
one,
the
right?
line, yeah.
So then at right angles to that for your ball position, he'd put another club. Then he'd mark on that club at various points where his 6-iron should be, where his wedge should be, where his 3-iron should be.
I like that.
Like 3 different things. So he's got 3 references.
I like that.
So then he can always go back when his game feels a bit off. Let me just check. Is my ball position good? Is my alignment right? Am I the same distance from the ball? Is my grip good? And if all of those 4 things are in place, realistically, then you're looking at a swing floor.
And that's good to know, though.
Yeah, because you're eliminating variables.
It's not the variables.
But you can't eliminate variables if you haven't quantified those variables. So you've got to measure them. You've got to know what your optimal ball position is, what your distance from the ball is. Some people prefer to stand open. Some people prefer to stand shut. I always like neutral as a base point, but it doesn't necessarily suit everyone. But whatever your thing is, I think you need a way of measuring it and quantifying it through equipment to be able to repeat it and check on it. Yep. So you're not lost when you're getting away from it. And look at Scheffler in the US Open at Oakmont. He was struggling a bit with his game, and when he was having some practice sessions on the range with his coach, and looking a bit down at times, but straight back to his training grip. Straight back to alignment sticks on the floor.
And that's a bit of a mental reset as well, because if you are in a bit of a bad way, you can just sort of go, right, I'm going to put all that to one side. We're going to recalibrate, as you said. Yeah. That's all gone now. That's the past. Here's the now. This is all in a good spot. Let's figure it out.
It's almost like a computer, isn't it? Like, or an electrician or a boiler technician. If your boiler's broken, the boiler man isn't coming round going, oh, God, I don't know, just try all of this stuff, see if that works. He'll have a checklist of, is the flame igniting right? Is the this? Is the that happening?
Good boiler knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, very in-depth, that, wasn't it? But there'll be procedures and things that have to take place that are essentially the basic fundamentals of boilers. But the same with golf. And if you don't know what those are, then...
So if I go to the driving range and my flame isn't igniting, that's when I know... my basics are all wrong.
Correct. Yeah, your temperature.
It's so similar, boilers and golf swings. What else you got for us, Joe?
Don't know. What did we discuss? We said what favourite training aids. What do
you use? I'd be interested to know. I know you're not practicing as hard as you would like to at the minute, but over the years.
Do you know what? I think I've learned to practice. I'm still playing quite nicely, even though I'm not doing much, because of kind of what we're talking about. I've learned over the years now, finally at 42 years old, that the practice quantity doesn't have to be massive, so long as the quality is there. So long as I keep a track on my alignment, like twice a week, so long as I check that setup, my grip, my ball position. As I've said to you before, there's a lot I can do wrong in the golf swing that will be forgiven because all the basics are there. So I'm actually playing okay because of that by practicing a little bit more efficiently. But I tend to, just told you about my little self-made alignment station where I've got the right angle pieces and I make a rectangle. That's a non-negotiable for me now. Should have been throughout when I was playing and trying to do it for a living, but it wasn't.
Maybe you wouldn't be sat here.
Correct. Maybe I wouldn't be. Thanks, Dan. Putting mirror for me, something I've steered away from, but I'm definitely going to be getting back into it. I haven't found one that I love. I used to have one I absolutely loved, Dan.
We've always got that one.
Yeah, there's always that one.
There's always one.
I don't know where she went, but...
And what about the mirror?
Yeah.
Mirror's a mirror, no?
No, there's lots of different mirrors. Some of them are a lot thicker.
Not in your little brain.
Some are a lot thicker. So and the ball will sit at ground level and then the mirror's really thick. So it puts the putter blade halfway up the ball. So it feels like you're training yourself to thin it.
You don't like that?
Don't like that. Some of them have a really nice sharp line that you can correspond your leading edge to. So you've got a really good indication of what square looks like. Some of them, that line's set too far back or too close to the ball. Some of them have little holes in the mirror where you can put some tees to create a little path to swing through. My old one, which I couldn't remember, had all of that. Everything.
All of it. It was a unicorn mirror.
Oh, she was a beauty. I don't know where she is. But yeah, I've got to find one that has
all of those things.
All or as most of. Maybe I'll have to settle.
What's the most important one for you?
The leading edge. I need that line to be couple of millimeters in front of where I want to set the putter blade. So I've got a real good frame of reference because that to me is more critical than anything else. And studies will show you this in putting. Club face alignment is so much more important than path. You see so many people talking about the arc of their strokes. I've got to get my path straight. It's like...
Your face isn't...
Yeah, you could. I've seen some of the work like Billy Mayfair. Have you ever heard of that name? He's a PGA Tour player, one of the better putters on tour. He must have cut across it at 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Like...
40, stop it.
I'll find a stroke.
Chopping it.
I'll find a stroke after this. It was severe, but he did the same every time. And because his putter face control was good, he started where he wanted to, and he knew what would happen. So I think certainly for me, the club face alignment is utterly key. And if you start measuring this stuff as well, if you started measuring this stuff, you'd notice your traits, and they will stay the same forever. So my trait in the long game is my feet get more and more left. My club face gets more and more open, so I'm set up essentially to hit a big cut, and then I wonder why I can't turn it over, or I have to massively manipulate something to turn it over. Similar in putting. Again, you see that a lot. If you've got an alignment fault or a paths issue in your long game, it does often translate into putting, and I'm similar with that. So if I can stay on that alignment stuff, and again, it's like that peace of mind thing, like we talked about with you and aim point. You're convinced by the process. So when you go to the golf course, you've got the peace of mind to just execute because you think that's taken care of. If I go on the golf course...
I know it's taken care of.
You know. So if I go on the golf course and I know my alignment's great because when I put that putter down, I look at the hole, that looks right and it corresponds with the line, I'm
so
confident.
much to be said for that.
Yeah, I'm
for
so
just
confident.
knowing
But if
in
you-
your heart of hearts.
But I guarantee you, at the moment, if I went on a putting mirror and put the putter blade down, I'd look at that and go, "Oh, crikey, that looks a bit left." When I know it's square based on the line because I've been used to aiming it right. So I would have to work my way back to recalibrate what square is, and then you're away. You can just relax and just let your natural instinct take over because you've taken care of the nitty gritty and the fundamentals.
Taking
And that
care
to
of
me
basics.
is what all these training aids are about. And again, another non-negotiable for me, which I can't wait to talk to Adrian Rietveld about, actually, the Scotty Scheffler training aid. I've got a couple spare at home that I want to put on a couple of I'm trying to speak to manufacturers to get an exact replica of my Gamer 7 irons from each set because I want a corresponding one of those. I'm pathetic, aren't I?
Yeah. I just saw you had a wave. It came over and went, I'm terrible.
God, yeah.
I'm a bad bloke.
I'm not bad. I'm just sad.
Yeah, it's sad. But it's you and we value you.
Fine, that's good. But I want to know how easy, because there's no markings on some of these training grips as to how to orientate them.
No, the man who put mine on just I hope got it right.
Yeah,
I think
so
he
the
did.
like a tall velvet or something with Golf Pride, you've got 2 little white dots, one at the bottom on the front, one at the top, and you just line them up and you know that's straight. The training grips don't. I've said this to Golf Pride. Golf Pride, you listen to this, don't you? They listen hard.
Golf Pride listen hard.
Big supporters. I said this to my man Eric when I went out to Abu Dhabi. A big win for Golf Pride. And if this happens, you know where this came from. Yeah. I said to him, what Golf Pride should do is release a training grip in multi-compound, in tall velvet, in Z-grip cord for a Morikawa psychopath. Because you can only get the smooth, one sort of kid-looking thing.
And they don't quite fit on properly, I don't think. They always feel quite high up the handle.
So if you had that with your multi-compounds, it even felt even closer to your set. And I said, what a great promotion that would be where you could buy 13 grips, full sets of grips, and get your training grip free.
Hey, that's cool,
and
man.
That should happen.
And Golf Pride, so far as I'm aware, with their market share, they've got plenty of dough knocking around. They could give it a go.
I think they absolutely could. And if you don't give it a go for the general public, send me some tall velvet ones.
We'd like some.
That would be superb. But yeah, I really think that should be a thing. So yeah, for me,
that's
my alignment station, my alignment sticks, putting mirror, and training grip are my current non-negotiables.
But that's it's not overly complex. It's all, and it's doing the right thing.
You don't want it. You want it to simplify things, don't you? We're here to just
You've seen the jokey videos where it's someone with a pool noodle under one arm and something off their head,
tin
and
cup.
And they look like the Tin Man trying to walk around with all of that. That's where it's paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, and again, to me, everything I've named there is pre-swing. So the alignment sticks take care of my alignment and my ball position and my setup. My training grip takes care of my grip. The putting mirror takes care of my putting alignment.
Before you've even moved.
I've not got many, or I never use any, or very rarely. That's not fair. I sometimes have, but all the stuff as a staple, it's all about setup and getting that right. But we'll move on to a couple that I think are great. So there's a company called TRS.
The ball.
Yeah, which is actually founded by a guy who I know quite well, Liam Bond, ex-European Tour player. And it's not just the ball. They've got, so it was named, it's TRS because it's Tour Rotation Stick. So that was the first training aid they came. So it's basically a stick that clips onto the end of the golf club. So it basically extends the golf club. And it was to help you to promote compression of strike. So it sticks off the end of the shaft. If you flicked or over-release the club, that end is going to flick you and whack you in the side. And I had a lot of bruises when I was trying that because I'm a bit of a scooper. So it was actually really good for me. And it's great for chipping to help you hold that angle and stop. Don't know what that release that would be with your mate Dan. That would be...
It might be an unknown release.
Might be an unknown.
No, it's probably, I don't know.
But yeah, that was their first one. Then they've got which we saw Adrian Maronk using at Live JCB last year. He uses 2 of them. He uses the ball. So you get a Velcro strap that goes around your forearm. An inflatable ball gets Velcro between your forearms to help the connection, stop that flying right elbow getting away. That's really useful and effective. And friend of the pod, Robert Rock, he created one in conjunction with TRS and Liam, which was the slider. So it's basically a belt that goes around your torso with another loop for your arm. So your right arm sticks in this in the spare loop, and it helps to keep your right arm nice and connected and pinned to your body without being too restrictive. So the reason it's a slider, it's on a little rail, so it gives you a little bit of play, which there's another one for you. Check out my Build the Perfect Swing with Robert Rock video on YouTube. He talks about
actually
that
a really
quite a
good
lot.
video.
He's brilliant in it, mate. He just goes.
He's very
talks
absorbing.
in depth, and he's such a great swinger of the golf club.
There's some chump next to him talking away though. So
in a very unflattering grey top in sweaty 39-degree heat.
That's pre Kate Moss over here.
New man.
Yeah. We start calling you Kate Moss.
Brilliant. So for me, I mean, there's plenty about. There's like Tour Striker, do some other stuff where they had that the ball, the similar thing that went around your neck like a necklace rather than a.
We are getting now though into what I think turns a lot of people off training aids, which is all these sort of attachments and sort of ancillary pieces of equipment that make you look a bit daft.
Yeah,
I'm being a bit harsh there, but I'm saying it does scare the lame and the 18 handicap off.
And it's not something I necessarily think you should just go and try. I mean, Liam won't thank me for saying this. Just go and just chuck your money out and try willy-nilly. It needs to be pertinent to your technique and fixing the fault you've got. So
don't do it if you're swinging it all right.
Because
that's not going to fix anything.
Yeah, you might have an excessive amount of shaft lean, and then you're training yourself for even more with a tour rotation stick. So you got to make sure that the fault you're trying to fix is pertinent to the training aid that you're selecting, and you should only really do that, I think, under the guidance of your coach or someone who's qualified to tell you how to do that. So for me, my favourite training aids tend to be pre-swing because I love that. As I've said, really simple, really sound. But there are some really good ones out there that can help you with a few other things. Pro Sender, do you remember that one?
Oh no, I recognise the name. Talk me through it again.
That was from what's his name? Sean Foley.
Yeah. Oh.
Sean Foley, or is that the wrestler? No, that's Mick Foley. Mankind. You don't know?
I got no idea what you're
Sean
about.
Foley.
Sean Foley.
Right.
Foles it, yeah.
Coached Tiger for a bit, Rose, loads of people. And it's basically a kind of a very firm plastic molded cup that sits on your wrist. So the idea is you set your wrist into position and hold that as long as possible to stop that kind of over release and that flick. So you're creating compression. I like that one. That's a really well built and well made training aid. There's loads out there, but like I said, go careful, consult a professional, and they can be really, really useful. And you see so many of the players that I've done What's in the Bags with who've got their one. They just have one. That they've got all their alignment sticks that we've spoken about and putting mirrors, but they've also generally, a lot of them have just got their one training aid. Blandy was a TRS ball guy. Because
they know what they're trying to fix. They know the fault in their swing or what they might
know their
drift into, their tendencies.
Blandy's tendency was to right arm get away from himself. So he uses that TRS ball to create the feeling that he wants. 10 minutes to start of a session, recalibrated, and then he just gets on with his life.
Love it, love it, love it. Good consumer advice, Joseph.
Thank you, mate.
If you've got any training aids that you like using we didn't mention, let us know. We're an open book.
What do you want to fix?
Got my brain. 6 inches.
You've got a braining aid. A braining aid.
That's what a therapist.
Yeah, cool.
A therapist would sort that. A golf therapist? They do them, don't they? Like a sports psychologist would help me.
Yeah.
Big time. Gosh.
Dr. Bob Rotella. That'd be a great one to get you chat. That'd be a superb special, actually, to hear you talk to a golf psychologist about your
actual problems.
I would pay good money for that. Right. Any golf psychologists out there who want to get involved, there's your project. Get in touch.
Project Dan. It's time for our favourite part of the show, Joe.
What, we're finishing, are we?
Sorry, well, yeah. We got anything else to say?
No,
wrapping up.
I meant it's finishing our favourite part of the show. We're closing it up.
Oh, good. Good.
Come on.
Good. It's time for our favourite part of the show, Johnny. It's Ask the Pod.
It's too hot to sing.
Yeah, I'm really, really not. I'm unwell. Ask the Pod. Ask the Pod. Ask the Pod. Ask the Pod.
Was new.
Awful.
That was truly.
Right, we have got loads to get through, and I feel bad when one comes in like after we've recorded, and it's not going to come on the show for a few weeks. So we're going to do a handful today. Is that okay, Joe?
Yeah, far away. ATP special.
Yeah, and for those who aren't aware, the Monday episodes are coming soon, where we can react more fleet-footedly, as I said, to goings on and questions we get.
I had good fun at lunch trying to talk Dan through the logistics of getting this set up so with good audio and good visual. And he looked at me about as interested as my kids look at me when I try and force broccoli at them.
Was not in the mood,
no,
Joe.
Correct.
Just read the room, man. Anthony Benjamin or Anthony. Is it Anthony or Anthony, those names?
Anthony. No one's ever been called Anthony,
Some
ever.
people are called Anthony.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Nonsense.
If you're called Anthony, let me know. Mr. Benjamin. Hi, guys. Love the podcast. Discovered it on YouTube and find it really entertaining and educational. You guys have great synergy. Bang. I'm a 62-year-old, slow swing speed, relatively new to golf, 2 years in.
How old, sorry?
62?
Yep.
Great age. I find my 7-wood to be a godsend. Easy to hit, and it's helped me to hit my 3-wood better. That's an interesting caveat I want to go into. Should I put a 9-wood in as well and get rid of my 5-iron? What about an 11-wood? I don't find hybrids quite as friendly. Dan is a good boy. Apparently, he likes to be told that. I thank you so much. I really do. Yeah. That email gave me a lot of warmth.
But it did. You really like that.
Anthony, Brisbane, Australia. Another Australia. Thank you, Aussies. We love you very much, and you're the most talkative bunch.
Yeah, hugely communicative.
So a few things.
Go on,
7-wood being a godsend. Yeah, I love 7-woods. I think they're fantastic.
I did a little social clip actually for Golf Monthly recently about after the US Open around the high lofted fairway wood phenomenon. It's like a bit of I thought it was going to be a bit of a fad. Oh, look, so-and-so's got a 9-wood, so-and-so's got a 7-wood, but it's like, it's picking up speed rather than...
It's rapid.
Yeah. So like there was just so many 7 and 9 woods at the US Open.
What was your man who got a GLE2 built for it?
Mark Hubbard.
Go on, talk us through this.
Ping staffer. So most like the 9 woods you see tend to be, I think, 24-ish degrees in loft. He obviously wanted something even more extreme and was looking for something around 28, and there was nothing in the lineup from Ping. I can't think of anyone actually does a 28.
A 29.
But in the Ping women's range, the GLE3
or 2 or whatever, yeah.
Range, they did a 28 degree. It was their 9-wood, but essentially when you bring in the numbers over, it transpires to an 11-wood when things are working out how they're working.
You got yourself in a right angle there.
Basically, for some reason,
just call it the loft number.
For some reason, the men's 9-wood is like 24 degrees, and the women's 9-wood of that range is 28.
We'll ask Ping that when we're over there.
We will ask Ping that. That's what I was meaning by that. But yeah, he really wanted more loft. So what they've done, they delved into the women's range, found a GLE3 head, and built that to spec with his, I think it was a Ventus shaft. So just essentially, and weighted it up because the women's heads are lighter. So they changed the head weight. They added some hot melt in, basically created him an option at 28 degrees as what would essentially, Anthony's talking about, would be an 11-wood. And it just goes to show that these guys will try anything to try and gain a little advantage with the equipment and out of that rough. Didn't quite make the bag, I don't think, for the week, but he was heavily testing it. And the main reason that I heard it didn't make the bag is he found it too shiny.
Yeah, and it was probably quite a jump from, let's say he's in G440, for example, or any G driver of fairwood of recent years, it would be dark. It's helped Anthony hit his 3-wood better.
Go on, that piqued your interest. Why?
So I've found the same. I've got so much confidence in my 7-wood that is a G440 that's the same as my 3-wood that I look down on it and just get very similar I get good energy through it. It's just sort of breathed a bit of confidence into my ability to hit a fairway wood. And maybe just striking that 7-wood well. And the 3 was not that much different. It's just less loft and a bit longer. And I've just started swinging my 3-wood better, I think, because I've learned to hit the 7-wood so well because it's so easy to hit.
Yeah.
Does that add up to anything?
I've got no notes on that. I think exactly right. I think you probably maybe if you start with a 3-wood and you're trying to ping that away off the deck, it can be quite a difficult skill to master. But if you all of a sudden have like an entry level into that, which is 7-wood with
a gateway drug,
little shorter shaft and a bit more loft, to build that confidence and the technique that's required to do that, all of a sudden that 3-wood doesn't feel more intimidating. So I see that a lot.
Should you put a 9-wood in the bag? Yes, just do it. If you're not hitting your 5-iron, great, and you love your 7-wood, just do it. And then heck, get an 11-wood. I don't care how many head covers you got in there. If you're hitting them better, hitting more greens and hitting the ball better, just load that thing up.
You know, I hate the player dependent thing, but this is player dependent. It is. It's player dependent. It's course dependent. It's why not have one in the arsenal? If you've got the spare money, get one as an option, try it, put it up against your 5-iron, see what you get in terms of flight difference, descent angle, spin, launch, everything. Just compare it all, and you might deem that, okay, this is going to be much more useful for me than my 5-iron. I'm striking it better, I get more carry. Could well be. And where do you stop? You know, right now, you'd have to stop at about 11-wood, about that sort of 28
We're not
degree
at 13
mark.
woods yet, but
I mean, there are options. I know you said I didn't love
hybrids, yeah, no,
as
just
much,
not hybrids.
but a set that might be worth a little look for him. I can think of a couple. So the Cleveland Halo XL full face, they're essentially like fairway woods.
Yeah, the whole
Massive
set of
soles,
irons.
and you get down to gap wedge. I think it is the 11 golf hybrid
Spelt
irons.
11, yeah.
Spelt 11, yeah, the word 11, all the way down to pitching wedge. And they're probably nearer fairway woods to hybrids than me. They're just a little bit deeper and thicker. So if that's something that you were finding so much easier than your irons, I'd really recommend giving the 11 golf stuff a try. Even just order one. Even order even the 8 iron in it. Give it a whirl. They're not that expensive. It's probably an experiment worth going with, I think.
I'd whack a 9 wood in straight away. Give you a 5 iron. Easy money. Thank you for getting in touch from Brisbane. Been to Australia before?
Do you think he knows Dean?
Bendigo. Bendigo is near Sydney. Brisbane isn't near Sydney.
It's not very big, Australia, though, is it?
No, tiny, mate. Gosh.
Okay.
Right, another one. Colin Templeton. Hello, men. It's a nice way to start an email.
Hello, man.
Hello, men.
Templeton, where's he from? I read this one.
Downs Crediton Golf Club. Joe the Pro's neck of the woods.
I don't think I know him.
No, he doesn't say he knows you. Not
Okay.
Joe, listen, just because you got recognised a couple of times, doesn't mean everybody knows you. Hello, men.
3 times in one
I
day.
just binged 4 of the pods while taming my jungle of
It's happened again.
That was the other wall this time.
Wow.
That was less funny this time. I didn't enjoy that very much. Just carry on. I really can't be bothered. This will look crap, but
Carry on. That's fine. We've alluded to it.
genuinely, it's so hot in this
Have
room
we explained
today.
this, by the way? What just happened there for the audio
the
listeners?
shaft wall just came
The
off
shaft
again.
wall fell down behind us. We all got scared. It happened in a previous episode where it actually struck Dan in the head. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend
2
going back to
episodes
the
ago.
episode and watching that. That's really funny. That one was less funny. It was just a bit scary, wasn't it?
That was just scary.
Yeah.
Because we were all locked into Colin's question.
But it is because it's so hot in here. The
adhesive's
adhesive
gone.
on the command strips is melting on the walls.
What could possibly
That's
go next?
what's going
It
on.
is that hot. It could be 45 degrees where I'm sat
Could
right
well
now.
be, yeah.
I just binged 4 pods while just carry on. While tame my jungle of a garden and thought I'd get in touch to say thanks and to give you an Ask the Pod. I recently got back into golf after a 15+ year break. I was a decent junior and then life happened. Career, mortgage, wife, kids. So golf was limited to about 5 rounds over those years. And as you can imagine, those rounds were pretty dejecting.
Hang on. What did he say? Decent as a kid, then life happened. He's now 62 and he's had 5 rounds since.
The 5 rounds a year.
That's a lot of life. Oh, 5 a year.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant 5 from being a kid to being 62. I think he's like won a decade.
Anyway, because so much has changed in tech, I decided to get fitted for everything except putter.
Yeah.
And generally, this has been a good decision, as always is. I've been shooting the mid to high 80s, and my new handicap is 14.6, which is very good, all things considered. I would certainly agree. My issue comes at the bottom of the bag. When I last played, I had a pitching wedge, a sand wedge, and shared a lob wedge with my brother. Some of my peers may have had a gap wedge, but I could have told you the lofts of any. Couldn't have told you the lofts of any of those clubs, let alone the grind. It was just a classic SG L. This area seems to have changed a lot since I last played. It looks like a bit of a minefield. Anyway, I took the fitter's advice and bought Vokeys in 50, 56 and 62. However, now I've been back around the golf scene for a bit. This seems unusual gapping for the average golfer, the 62 in particular. In my ignorance, grinds weren't discussed in my fitting. My 50 is an F, 56 is a D, and 62 is an M grind. Not sure why the fitter chose these. Are these generic or suitable for all? Is question 1. My concern is finding out in a year's time that we're making life hard around the greens because my wedge purchases were disastrous. 6'5" and a high swing speed player is giving us some context there for you there, Joe. And this is a really interesting question because I've been fitted 2 or 3 times now, and wedges are included in that off a mat at a driving range. And having done this podcast with you now for a year, that seems completely insane.
Don't love it. One thing I would say, I mean, there are places that do a decent job of it. Like, I talk about Precision Golf in glowing terms, and that's an indoor only facility, and they conduct wedge fittings there. I think they'd agree that that's not as optimal as it could be. You'd want to get out on turf, you'd want to get out on sand, but that's their situation. They do a really good.
They do
good
the best
job
with their situation
with
right?
that, and there are things to look at. Even from a mat, you can obviously get gapping right. You can look at strike location. You can look at spin and flight numbers and stuff. So there's plenty to get stuck into still with wedge fitting there. So I don't think it's it's far from a waste of time.
An indoor wedge fitting, that is.
But yeah, in an ideal world, I'd want to then get around some different lies in rough, fairway, tight lies, bunkers, etc., etc. Right, where to start? First place to start. I don't think I've ever met a 6'5", 62-year-old. You don't see a lot of really tall old boys, do you?
No, the last bloke was 62.
What's Colin?
37.
Okay, good.
But no, let's carry on down that avenue anyway. You don't see tall old men.
Yeah, you don't.
I mean, 62's not that old.
Yeah, but it's old enough to start. You start shrinking when you start shrinking.
Gosh.
You're a little,
60.
You're a little fella. You'll know this.
5'11". Down here, Joe. Anyway,
okay,
he's
right,
a tall middle-aged man. Lower middle-aged man. 37's
Cool
young.
Colin.
Yeah.
That's quite a young Colin. That's what's thrown me.
One of the youngest Collins.
Yeah,
I
he's a young
suspect.
Colin there. Okay, well that's a
Answer
moot
the
point.
question.
Yeah, sure. What was the question? Right, so gapping for a start.
Yeah, so 50,
I don't think
56,
that's that
62.
unusual.
I don't love a 62-degree wedge, though.
Yeah,
I don't love lob wedges
It's
anymore.
an unusual one, but it's a solid increment. You got 6 degrees between things there. So quite often you might see 52, 56 and 60 4-degree increments. They've gone slightly. Dan just walked off. You can't do that in the middle of a podcast. What are you doing? At least introduce the fact you're going to walk off.
You were mid-flow. My laptop's died.
So, 6-degree increments. I can see where you're coming from, but that doesn't worry me at all. What does worry me that if you're right and grinds and bounces, etc., weren't discussed in the fitting, that's really
not
poor.
ideal.
Yeah. You need to know what. So going back to your grinds as well, they're not generic grinds. Every grind is very pertinent to or very specific to a certain delivery, predominant conditions you might play in, all sorts of different things. And the D grind is quite a specialist grind in your mid wedge there, as is the M grind. The F grind in your gap wedge in your 50, that's quite a generic, full sold. That's your basic, nothing going on grind. But yeah, what concerns me there is that a good fitting isn't just about ending up in the right product. A good fitting, I think, is about understanding why you're in that product and why it suits your tendencies and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that would be my major concern. I think if you can still get in touch with the person that fitted you, just ask for some answers. Just say, do you think that's wrong?
No.
You laughed.
Just walking there demanding answers.
D-grind. I want answers.
Table.
Yeah, no, I mean, in polite way, just say, I just want to check.
Just been thinking about
and
this.
It doesn't sound like hasn't stated having major problems.
No,
he's just worried about.
He mentioned that he doesn't want to keep going down this road of chipping. Like you were saying earlier, like he's making adjustments to his chipping because of the wedge, whereas there could be a wedge out there that just suits his style.
Yeah, and it's the unknown really, isn't it? So he needs to get answers for that because you don't want to keep practicing and chipping away, literally chipping away, if you are in the wrong stuff. So it could be a case of either go and get answers from the person that fitted you and get an explanation as to why you're in that. Explain that you're not questioning it, you're not worried about it, you just want to understand it to make sure that it suits what you do and what you're planning on moving forward and stuff like that. Or if you're finding that a bit awkward and embarrassing, book a fitting with someone else. Go and see someone else for a wedge fitting and just say, look, I've got some wedges. I just want to get it checked out and want to make sure I'm future-proof in this. And I want to understand why I'm in what I'm in. I'd say that's a fair, if it is awkward for you to go back to the fitter and question that person, which I guess it could be, unless you do it in the right way. I'd say that would be a good way about it. Go and find someone else who can give you some independent advice. But yeah, that's what worries me, is that you weren't explained why we're in this bounce, why we're in this grind, because your conditions. What do you play? What conditions do you play in predominantly? How do you like to play this shot?
Yeah,
et cetera.
And that fitting can be done well inside with the right questions asked.
It can be done a lot better. Yeah, for sure.
Good advice there, Joe.
But don't worry about the 62. You worry about 62. 62.
Oh, that's a personal. I don't like lob wedge. You keep your 62.
We did have that discussion briefly a while ago, didn't we? About why 60 and 62 are difficult. Yeah,
if it's going to be anything, have 60.
Yeah, you're limiting your effective hitting area there, so you got to be pretty precise.
When do you? Everyone stood over a ball going, I need at least 2 more degrees on this 60 degree. I've got my 60 degree going. When the heck do I ever need this? People need it. It's fine. Whatever. My opinion. Whatever. What are we on, Johnny? I got one more we want to do. Who cares? This came in about a couple of hours ago.
Okay.
Dave Posnett Hi, Dan and Joe. Hope you're both well. First off, I want to say, this is the main reason I want to put this in. First off, I want to say thanks for the absolute equipment nerd fest this podcast is. I'm a classic 15 handicap golfer that is forever tinkering and trying out new stuff.
Yes.
This is the best bit. Not necessarily in the search of something to particularly lower my handicap, but because it's fun and I love it.
It is fun, and I love it, Dave. Yes.
So thank you for helping me feed my need for equipment insight, Dave. You're so welcome. This is making you nibble effectively. My Ask the Pod question is...
Oh, he's got me already.
He's got you already because we read this before we came on. My Ask the Pod question is, if zero torque putters are really the future, then why does Mr. Bryson always ahead of the tech curve with his cricket bat jumbo grips, one length irons, innovative driver tech, bulge and roll irons to Chambeau? It's a big middle name that, Dave, but I like what you've done there.
Which we know isn't true because it's Aldrich.
It's James Aldrich.
James Aldrich.
Bijad.
Yeah.
Why does he still play a toe hang answer style putter and not a zero torque number? Insert fishing rod emoji here. As an equipment geek, I'm all over some of the new tech story, but having rolled a handful of the Odyssey square to square models in my local shop, I wasn't overly blown away. I appreciate they won't be right for everyone's putting stroke, but if someone like Bryson brackets Bijad isn't sold into this tech, then is it just marketing guff? Thanks for all the great content you guys are putting out, keeping up the good work. All the best, Dave. Born and raised Nottingham, these days a London resident. Also included, Dave, which we have already looked through. Thank you very much. A full Whitby. We love it. It's got a Gapper High in there, which is rogue. We haven't got time to get into it, Dave, but thank you. Right.
Where do you want me to start?
Well, it's your answer, mate. And
a lot I loved about that. I like his tinkering. A lot going on there. Also liked his use of guff. Big fan of the word guff.
Don't see the word guff around anymore.
I use it a lot. I used it in a social video last year for Golf Monthly.
That's huge from you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Anything else? No, it's a good question.
I think he's deliberately poking the bear here, but I think it's a fair point he's making.
Do you know what? I hadn't really considered it. In fact, it had crossed my mind once or twice before, but I never really thought in depth. But where to start? Bryson's not necessarily the barometer of everything that's good. He tries some stuff that really doesn't work and has some very different ideas and different needs. But you're right. Like the way he putts and seemingly his ethos around putting feels like it would match up really well with zero torque because he has the putter almost bolt upright. I'd love to know the lie angle on his putter. I think it's got to be pushing 79, 80 degrees maybe. Very little rotation in his stroke. It's very up and down the line and the face doesn't do much rotating. So that would seem to lend itself to that style of putter. Even his technique whereby, I don't know if I've ever explained this to you before, you know how he looks so hunched in? So he tries to get his shoulders rotated to the end, what's he called? The end range. It's the full range of motion.
The end of that bit
so it can't go any further.
Locked.
Yeah. So essentially, if you're in a comfortable posture with your shoulders in a nice relaxed way, your shoulders could externally or internally rotate a bit. If you go all the way to the end of one range of movement, it can't go anywhere else.
Good.
So he's all about minimizing and pacifying club face. So yeah, you're right. That would sit really, really well with it. I'd be interested to know if he tried anything like that. And in theory, with that stroke, it shouldn't necessarily match up that well with that answer style of putter that has a little bit of toe hang. So don't know why, because I haven't asked him about it. But
he's not even, has he even dabbled in one?
I've never seen it.
I can't believe he's not been out testing one.
When we get him, which I think we're going to, I'll pose that to him, Dave, because that's an interesting one to find out about, and I'd be curious about that. Could be some other stuff in play, like he's big into ball roll and getting it rolled quickly, and he uses that descending face technology of his sick putter, so that might maybe that's a non-negotiable for him.
That's a good point.
So yes, there's a lot of nuances there. It's an interesting question, well poked. I'll do some more investigating.
Good. Thank you, Dave. Really, and again, these questions have become way more, not that they weren't before, but some really insightful ones, sort of building on what we're talking about. I'll quickly do his bag because it's quite sexy.
No,
QI
trying to keep this.
QI10 driver, Titleist D917 F2 fairway.
Yeah, old school.
Gapper High. That's like completely insane.
Yeah, nutty.
What was that club received like? Because I was in retail when this came out and we couldn't sell them for love nor money because no one understood what they were.
I saw a lot knocking around on the kind of the bargain shelf afterwards being completely out. But
in that weird green, black colourway, they were a bizarre.
It was a strange thing. I remember Tiger played one very briefly at the Open at Carnoustie.
Nice. Was it the low, surely?
Gapper low, yeah. He used it as a 2-iron when he was chasing down Francesco Molinari when Molinari won. And he had one built and I saw him hit some really good shots to that. But Yeah, never really landed that one, did it?
And it's amazing how a good club that is mechanically sound, if marketed incorrectly or confuses people, which some of these things do, often it's our job to explain it as golf media. If that can't quite hit, you just lose it.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, they didn't hit the ground, did they? MP18 irons, SM9, high toe wedge, Scotty Cameron and Crown Select Mallet 1. What was that face?
You know, I'm just not a Scotty man. As an equipment nerd, you know.
You should be.
Let's move. Yeah, I should be. I can appreciate some of the older school stuff, and I love the pieces like the Terillium. I just, you know where I am with Zero
I know
Talk,
where you
and
are.
I like the functionality, and I think do you want an art piece or do you want a functional piece of equipment that's going to work for you? That's
Dave, consider yourself poked back.
Yeah, poke that.
Great
Dave.
question though. Thanks for getting in touch and giving us a bit of a nerdy what's in the bag. Sat like I'm on this morning now. Look, I'm just casual. Should we plug a few things before we get into
plug
the
away, Dan? Plug away.
Fujikura, Battle of Beth page. There's not long left now. Closed on July 31st. Please enter. Link in the description. All you got to do, put your email in, and you could go to the Ryder Cup for the full thing. 2 days in hospitality, $2,000 in your back pocket to fly out there and stay somewhere.
Custom shaft, custom
driver. We haven't got to the bottom of Fuji. If a European wins it,
they'll
or a
change
UK
it. They'll
citizen.
change it. They'll make it European custom. They will. That's a promise. That's a kick point promise. You can take that to the bank.
Link in the description. Close July 31st. You must be a resident of the UK, Canada, or the USA, but not Northern Ireland.
How dare you?
So sad, isn't it? Poor Northern Irish. What do they
Connor.
What do they deserve that? Not poor Connor. No, he sent us a Rudy.
He doesn't deserve
strongly
to go,
worded email the other week.
Doesn't deserve to go.
Magazine 3 for 5 offers still going. You know it is by now. Newsletter. All the links to all this stuff is in the description. If you want a bit more, go and investigate it down there.
Also, keep an eye out for our Monday show because we don't know when it's going to be out, but it might be now.
We're going to film a pilot internally, figure out how it sounds and how it looks. But we'd love any ideas for that Monday show because it's going to be like. We'll record it on the Monday morning.
Be out Monday afternoon.
Exactly. So we'll be able to react to the weekend stuff. We want to base it in equipment, but do you want to hear us talk about we'll still talk about what happened on the tour from a tour perspective because a win will have just happened. Our golf. Does anyone care?
Our weekends, stuff
like that.
You could tell them that story about that Ukrainian fella you met. Or we could move on from that, can we?
Let's move on from that.
Okay.
Let's definitely not talk about that. If it happens the weekend before Monday show, though,
could come out.
We'll talk about it. And we didn't know it was Ukrainian or not.
Okay, yeah, good point.
What else have we got to plug? Oh, reviews, please. Reviews would be nice on your listening platform of choice. They're really helpful. And then comments on YouTube. If you've got nothing to say or nothing to ask, just say hello. Just say hello to us if you're this deep in now watching still.
Also, genuine feedback. Like, it's lovely to hear, oh, you're great, this, blah, blah, blah. If you've got some stuff that annoys you that we do, or you'd like to hear more of something or less of something,
100%.
Sculpt it. It's your show.
Well, that's why we're doing the Monday show, because we've had enough responses, comments, and people personally telling us love it, but would love it to be more timely.
So you'll be listened to.
We're pivoting. We're fleet-footed. I like that term. Fluid. Right, what's in the bag time now? Before I do this, is sponsored by our friends at Golf Clubs of Cash, Joe. But I haven't got the ad read quite to hand. So before I get the official one, do you want to just talk about your experience at Golf Clubs of Cash as someone who is perving online for golf equipment? Yeah,
so I do a lot of stuff. I've actually done a few little independent things with Golf Clubs of Cash, with Golf Monthly. I do a little retro review series on YouTube.
They're good. Best clubs from 2002.
Great.
Yeah. Why did we go back there?
Who knows? But yeah, one of the leading retailers of pre-loved equipment, and one of the most, in my experience, any secondhand site that I've ever been on, so easy to navigate. There's an as specific app that helps you search for clubs. You can filter stuff by year, brand, model, condition, price. You can just narrow down, put in those parameters, and then it will spit out a lovely menu of clubs.
Of clubs for you to look at. Do you know what I like as well? They can whack a new grip on there for you.
Yeah.
Not for free, but
they can change lie angles. They can change shafts. They can change adapters on shafts. They can,
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, they do all of that.
That's huge.
It's like a build shop, so you can get all sorts of stuff changed, which not a lot of people offer. Usually, if you're buying secondhand, it is what it is. You can say to those guys, "Oh, I'd like that 2 degrees flat with a Golf Bride Tour velvet." Bosh.
Especially if you know your specs.
Yeah.
If you've been fitted before, that's a great way of doing it. So this section is sponsored by Golf Clubs for Cash, Joe. Europe's leading retailer of great value pre-owned golf equipment. Choose from woods, irons, putters, bags, and more. With over 40,000 items in stock and more than 50,000 5-star Trustpilot reviews, you're sure to find what you need at Golf Clubs for Cash. Shop the website, download the app, or visit their stores in Edinburgh or Warrington. Thank you, Golf Clubs for Cash, for supporting the podcast as they have been doing all year since the Masters, really. We very much appreciate it, don't we?
It said other there. One of the other things I would like to mention for our audience, particularly, there's a tour section. So you can filter by, it's like a tour van only thing. So special clubs that have come off the tour van, putters, drivers, shafts. So if you're in the market,
the Daves of this world
stuff,
who just like tinkering and playing around,
Dave, get on it. So that's well worth a look.
And we're going way back this time. The last few we've gone back into recent history. We're
back
going
to my era.
We're going back to your era. I genuinely can't wait to hear about this, Joe. It's Jack Nicklaus.
Heard of him much?
Yeah. Player much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on then. Right.
How did you? Actually, first question from me. How did you find so hot? Do I look hot? Do we look hot? Flushed. How did you go about finding this information? And what year have we gone to specifically?
Well,
or are you doing a sort of?
It's a bit of a generic one because actually, funnily enough, throughout his career, there wasn't a massive amount of change.
That's helpful
throughout his bag, which was really helpful. A couple of resources, found a few articles knocking around. Found a very good article that Michael Weston, Westers knocked up on the Golf Monthly site. Joel, our boss, had done a video where he actually put Jack Nicklaus's set together on the Golf Monthly YouTube channel and played with him and saw
that's quite cool.
We're a ridiculous flat cap. So if nothing else, go and watch that for that because that's funny and it looks comical. But it's a really good video and well worth a watch actually. So yeah, there's some good resources. I thought it might be tricky delving back. I started on Seve. That was hard work. I knew much about Seve.
Yeah, interesting.
And he seemed to be a bit more of a changer as well. So to pinpoint an era and a time of a specific bag was really difficult. Actually, I'm going to cut this and send this to a guy called Mark Woodward, works at Precision Golf, the world's biggest Seve fan and Chelsea fan. He loves Seve.
He must have
and
some
he loves
nuggets.
Equipment working at Precision Golf. So actually, good point. I need to get into Mark about that and we'll get a Seve.
That's just an audible note for
Mark
you.
will know all of this.
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
But yeah, there was a bit about,
Okay.
really tough to get exact dates on switches, etc., because it was so long ago. There was no internet. There was
a bygone
era. It is
tough,
but he did spend the bulk of his career with McGregor, and one of the main features of his equipment was that he barely changed it. As I've said, like he was so consistent, and especially in terms of specs, a model very infrequently might change, but he would always have it. He'd say irons. He'd kind of have them ground to look the same anyway. So he preferred like a straight leading edge. A few things which we'll get into his irons in a minute. So some very specific things that he required both in leading edge, in sole, and he had a grinder that worked specifically for him to make the shapes that he wanted. So yeah, not much changed. He always went with, this is nice, a nice old school setup. Driver, 3-wood, 1 iron to 9 iron.
Yes, that's
1,
so
2, 3, 4,
pure.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yes.
And just a couple of wedges, set wedges as well, just the wedges within his McGregor set. So yeah, it's just basically like a 1 to sand wedge set.
That's so good.
Just how it should be, isn't it? None of this, oh yeah, I drop my this to accommodate this wedge. I drop a wedge to chop in my 9 wedge. Just bang, driver, 3-wood, 1 to wedge. Get on with it. Go play. Love it.
We wouldn't have a podcast if it wasn't for all this chopping and changing.
We would,
nonsense.
because they get they almost had to get more creative with the setup of those clubs to make them do certain things. Whereas now you just go, make me a 9-wood, will you? I want it to go higher. Well, they would have to do various things to make their 1 iron go higher. Like it's far more interesting. We'd have a much better podcast if we'd have done this in 1954. It's tough to get it out there.
Put it out via carrier pigeon.
So can't be exact here, but if it was any time from kind of 1954 onwards, this is pretty much what his bag would have looked like.
Great.
Right?
This is superb.
To the best of my knowledge.
This is great.
Prove me otherwise, because it was 70 odd years ago, so prove me wrong. Right, driver. McGregor, Tommy Armour signature Tawny, 945W 9 degree. So obviously persimmon, obviously wood, right?
We're wood. These are literal woods.
Right, and he played this at 42 3/4 inches.
So that's 3-wood length.
Shorter than 3-wood.
So
it's like a
length.
Scheffler 3-wood, like a short 3-wood. So drivers now retailing regularly 45.5, so almost 3 inches longer than that. But even that was considered a quarter of an inch short at the time. So driver was, for that era, was around 43 inches was about standard. So even one of the longer hitters in the game was doing a Scheffler, going slightly down in shaft length, even though he's not short. He's a little fella like you, about 5'11". He said it cost him a few yards, but it helped him to get the shaft to flex the right amount to keep up with his brisk tempo. So
brisk tempo.
Again, if you, I've written that. I don't know if that was what was said.
It's just fun. It's a
but he's quite a powerful player. Drove with his legs a lot. Quite a harsh transition, if you like. And I think before people had EI curves and understood shaft profiles and weaving graphite fibers in different directions to create a stiff middle butt tip, etc., you'd kind of just had a steel shaft. So going shorter, everyone said, well, the shorter something gets, the stiffer it gets, right? Yeah, that makes sense to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
We know now that if you cut it from the tip, that makes more of a difference to flex than it does from the butt. But yeah, he obviously felt it was a little soft at 43 inches. God, at 43 inches.
Doing so well. It's the heat. Carry on, I need to take my jumper off. I'm about to pass out.
Please do, yeah, you're making me hot. So yeah, he felt it was a little bit potentially soft at 43 inches. So went down quarter of an inch, which helped maybe stiffen that overall profile of the shaft up a little bit to keep up with his brisk tempo. Are you coming back in at any point? You're just going to stand there. Fine. Suits me. Welcome to the Joe Show, everybody. You've all been crying out for Dan to leave, and it's finally happened. Wafting his shirt at me behind the camera. Interesting. Fairway wood.
You say so yourself, Joe Show.
I think that is interesting.
No, it is. It totally. Shows, what CC was ahead?
What do you want from me?
Sorry for asking questions. What do you reckon it was? Take an educated guess, big man.
I would say it was 180cc.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Sub 200.
Sick.
I would suggest. Fairway wood. McGregor. Tommy Armour. Signature Tawny. 693T. 15 degrees. This is one he had for 37 years. And in that 37 years, he had it regripped once.
What?
Once.
That's a joke.
That's not a joke. He had it regripped in 19... I read this. I think it was 1987 or something like that. So he had it for he'd had it for about 28 years or something.
It's been like holding on to that.
Yeah. So he had it regripped. The grip stuff in a minute will blow your mind.
Yeah,
because you'll enjoy this. But yeah, he had the same 3-wood for 37 years and regripped it once. Bedlam.
That is insane. Why? Was there a reason? He just didn't want to tinker with it at all?
Well, when you find out how grips were done, or specifically his grips were done, it must have been quite difficult to get the grip to be the same as it was. But it's not like just slipping on a Golf Pride Tour velvet that's been injection molded to be the exact same dimensions. Things were a bit different by then. So he might have just been scared it wouldn't be the same feel, and just dealt with the fact that it was slippy as heck. And it was made of leather, these grips. So like the Gripmaster leathers we spoke about, the Aussie, the kangaroo leather ones, seriously last. I mean,
so it might not have been rock hard after 37 years.
37 years is a good stint.
It's not. So I've got so many. Oh gosh, isn't it interesting that even now players don't touch 3-wood because it's really hard to get right? All the way back then, and that's I don't know, only 70, 80 years ago, it was the same.
Yeah.
Number 2. Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot what number 2 point was. Oh well, I'm getting all excited. This is just really fun.
Right, let's get into it. Speaking of grips.
Oh no, sorry. What in 1987 finally twigged? I need to regrip this. Do you reckon the tech caught up or something?
Hang on, let me just Google that date because I think I've just completely made that up. When did
AI Overview will get this?
Do you reckon?
You'd hope so.
Grip his 3-wood. This is good podcasting, isn't it?
This is good podcasting. It's live research.
1981. Monge 2, Rodney.
I don't know the reference.
Only Fools and Horses.
Right.
God, you're so young.
It's a shame because that would have made a great social clip, but you said the wrong year now, so.
We can correct that. We can put it in. How do I create a cut? Oops, sorry, 1981. Then they can clip. Then Johnny can clip that in now. Perfect.
Live social media work. We are a fleet-footed media brand.
Stop saying fleet-footed. What's wrong with you? You get a word and you just keep using it.
It's my little brain.
Reticent.
My little brain. Yeah, reticent. It's my little brain.
Using it wrong.
It's my little brain, mate.
Right. Grips, unbelievable stuff. This is the stuff you tune in for, everyone. Right. So,
Get on with it.
rubber grips were only invented in the early 1950s. So
Right.
kind of the stuff we know now, like a Golf Pro Tour Velvet, but they would have the Victory was a Golf Pro grip. I don't know if you've ever seen that, like green kind of colour. So young. Before that, they were just basically like hockey grips, like a hockey, just
Tape.
had a tape and strip and wrap round and wrap round and wrap round. But Nicklaus used coal tar pitch adhesive underneath his grips, which is like the stuff you'd use to build a roof, like tar, and you tar a roof. It's that stuff.
Wow.
So he would get this coal tar pitch smothered over, like marked where the grip goes to, smothered over the shaft, let it set a little bit, then it would be sanded down to get rid of the lumps, the pieces of coal, I guess, to get rid of the lumps and to get it to a preferred thickness. And I don't know how they were measuring this thickness back in, because you're not going to have digital calipers and stuff like that. So it'd be sanded down to a point, but when it was still a touch sticky, then on top of that, he would then wrap around his leather. So the leather would get wrapped round. And he had a very specific thickness. He liked slightly oversized, so 1/16 of an inch thicker than most people's grips.
How are they measuring that?
No idea. I'd love to know.
With coal tar, how are you getting any kind of measurement from that and any specificity?
But this is why, like, people nowadays, someone commented, I'd put some club build stuff on Instagram recently. Some people said, "Oh God, it's great to see people building clubs. It's a real craftsman." It's like, it is not craftsman now. I use Stanley knife to cut off the old grip, slap a bit of tape on, and shove a grip on. This is craft. This is getting the tar the right thickness, the right consistency. I can't believe
you're using the word tar to talk about
sanding it down smooth, sanding it down to the exact right thickness that the player wants. Like, that stuff is craftsmanship. That's proper, isn't it? But yeah, apparently, so his club maker said these things were hard as rock. So when that tar dried, you essentially, like the M25, underneath your grip, underneath a bit of leather that's going to firm up as well. They were so rock hard. It almost felt like gripping the shaft, but just with a slight bit more tack. And on mishits, apparently it was just awful. The feedback you get through, if you miss the center of the face, up the shaft, and you get no vibration into the coal, into the fire, through that, into the leather. You knew it if you miss it. It's almost like, what's it like, but when you get goats on a farm and you don't want them to go places, and you put an electric. I saw it on Clarkson's farm. They have a tag around their neck, and if they stray out of the zone that you specify, so they know where not to go. So it's almost like the mishits are so bad, you get that shot that you just had to become a really button center striker. It's almost like that sort of therapy.
It's like a deterrent.
Yeah, it really is like a deterrent. So I just found that absolutely fascinating, the way those grips were put on, and the way we claim to be craftsmen, clubs builders nowadays. It's just a different world.
That is great. It must have stank. Yeah, putting that on. It must be like relaying a tarmac road,
which would have been a problem for you because you like sniffing grips.
Love sniffing grips. Yeah, which is in an unhealthy way.
Which is something we need to talk about. Okay, so that's his 37-year stint with a 3-wood. Into his irons: McGregor MT 1 iron, McGregor VIP 2 to sand wedge.
2 to sand wedge. I just love hearing that.
Awesome, isn't it? Liked a sharp toe. So didn't want rounding and soft code, liked a nice sharp toe, a straight leading edge, and he did like a bit of offset, not Langer Monty levels of offset, just a healthy little bit of offset. Did find it, well, it's not funny because, or unusual, nothing's funny on this. Set wedge, specialist wedges, kind of a later phenomenon. Most of the pros in that era would be a 1 to sand wedge set,
and their sand wedge would just be the same as their iron set.
In the same set, because they're all blades anyway. They're all,
It
wasn't like they were going, I can't use this flexing face, hollow bodied, foam filled sand wedge. So they're all kind of of that ilk anyway. So you didn't need to have kind of specialist wedges, which
they already
to me,
were.
Which I love because my OCD and neatness. Imagine just having that
one. It would look pure in the bag, wouldn't it?
1 to sand iron, brilliant. Love that. What else do you like? You like really flat soles. So he'd have him ground.
A lot of grinding work going on.
No
then.
contouring, no heel relief, no pre-lawn weeding edge. He just wanted
quality of strike must have been off the planet.
Precision. So
In
he
those little
basically
blades.
zero bounce. Yeah,
No
narrow
bounce.
soles, flat soles, no leading edge, leather grips with tar under.
I know I'm not breaking news here that he was a ball striker.
Good, wasn't he?
But it's level. What was I was quite drunk one night, and the 1980 whatever Masters highlights were
86.
on 86. I was just, my jaw was on the deck. The beers might have helped, but I was just like, how are they doing what they're doing with that equipment?
Yeah.
The skill must have been through, I think, is this presumption? I don't know. Is this? Am I doing down on modern day golf
We're going
by
into
saying
a debate that you just can't win and that people have had forever. Like, how do you compare Tiger to Jack?
it's impossible?
How do players? You just don't know.
Because maybe our players would have learned to do what they're doing, but it's just amazing with hindsight looking back. I think we can enjoy them both.
Yeah, absolutely. They can coexist. But there are quite a lot of belligerent people out there, myself included sometimes. You hear a lot of, I don't know, I need to investigate Mo Norman a bit more. Have you heard Mo Norman?
Yeah, I see him. I hear about him. There's a bit of a legend around him. I don't know anything about him. I
don't know
agree.
if
I
I'm
should spend
having
some
it.
time.
I don't know if I'm having it.
You're not
People
having
talk
it.
about he's the greatest ball striker of all time, never missed the target line, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well...
This is where we need a Kick Point and 18 Majors Golf Monthly's history podcast
Collab.
crossover.
Yeah.
Crossover episode.
Yeah, that's interesting. We could go down that route. Yeah, I just don't know if I'm buying it. What prevented him from getting the results and being a successful career if you're that good? Anyway, I digress. Very exact on his weight tolerances. So again, his grinder, one of the few things that he was very specific about were getting the exact weights, getting stuff to match up, not
Total
close, total weight and swing weight. So you're getting the right amount of tar, taking the right amount of material off the head.
Mind blowing.
Incredibly fastidious about making those weight tolerances non-existent. It was a couple of degrees upright, which marries up with the time and the swing dynamics of the time. He was quite upright, big high hands at the top, flying right elbow, little bit of early extension and leg drive, if you like. So came in with a slightly higher handle. Now everything seems to have gone a bit more rotational and shallow, and people are in slight generally as a right. I bet if you did a this is pure conjecture, but I bet if you found out every lie angle from 1950s on tour versus today, I bet it'd be about 3 degrees flatter today.
Yeah.
Because golf swings have just changed so very
Our
much.
physiology's changed, as you found out whenever we were talking about physiology.
Correct. Yeah. It's a very good point.
I'd have been a giant back in the 1950s.
You would have been the little fella. Yeah. You were in the wrong era, mate. Would it surprise you to know dynamic X100s?
No, really?
50s, in the 50s. So,
Gosh, they've
not
had some
dynamic
dominance, haven't they?
golds,
Oh.
but it was true term of dynamic. The dynamic shaft's been around since 1942, and they expanded it to dynamic gold in 1980. So 1942, and it's not it didn't change much. They just sort of branded it gold.
Yeah.
1942.
That's
we're
really
pushing
cool.
80. What was that? 80 and a bit years.
From 1942,
83 years.
83 years
83 years
of a shaft.
And who we did last week?
Sepp.
Morikawa, Sepp, Scheffler, Tiger.
That's quite cool.
All
I
in
like
the same.
That's a nice thread running through all of golf history there. Isn't that nice? It connects all of our favourite golfers together.
It's arguably, I mean, we should do this. We should create a list of the most iconic individual components or pieces of equipment in golf ever.
Well,
Not just club, because people always go, what's the best club of all time?
I can start you now.
Granular.
Yeah, I can start you now. It's dynamic gold shafts, or dynamic shafts with the Golf Pride Tour Velvet grip
Tour
on it.
Velvet
There's
grip.
your starting point. Let us know what else, other components you think could meld into
There's
that.
some other classic grips people will go with. The Tour Wrap, the Golf Pride Tour Wrap, people love. From back in the day, the Victory cord. God, this is good stuff.
Set you off now, yeah.
This is good
we'll
stuff,
do this.
Dan.
If we had like a Patreon or like an extra channel for
Yeah.
the real weirdos out
You
there,
guys pay for this, wouldn't
Yeah.
you? Hey? Right. Putter used for most of his career, McGregor George Lowe 600.
Who's George Lowe?
Don't know. And don't know much about this putter at all, because ironically the putter he's most remembered for is the McGregor ZT Response that was in his bag at the 86 Masters. Can you picture the iconic picture of him on the 17th green holding his putter up in his left hand?
when when I played Augusta National, I had a putt from that exact spot.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you hold it?
No, of course you didn't.
But yeah, what was interesting about that is it was massive. It was about as wide as you get your microphone. It was about that heel to toe.
Stop it.
Yeah, it was just massively oversized. I found a picture of it actually, which I'll have to send you after post-production. It'll be up there now, and it was.
I mean, that's got to be a healthy.
Go on.
7 or 8 inches.
Yeah. It was a beaut. It was an absolute beaut.
Well above average.
But he that was not something he used much in his career at all. But it happened to be his most iconic victory and most photographed thing because it was latest when more media was about. It's become the most famous thing, and it wasn't really responsible for much of his career. It's like Tiger winning 14 majors with his Scotty Cameron and then switching to a lab and nipping one next week, like nipping the Open at Portrush, gets photographed with that, and then in
80 years later,
80 years time, some pair of gimps like us are talking about how Tiger was famous for his lab. That's the kind of thing that would be going on.
That's good. Here's one for you. I saw a really funny TikTok the other day.
I have to put this down because I'm out of content, but that's about it. Go on. Yeah.
No, there was. I'll have to stand up for this, but it was like trying to recreate how they used to putt back in the day. And for some reason, can you pick that up? Am I on a shot there? They just stood like that.
Go face on, I think.
And they just like that. And then they'd hold the putt, and some bloke would come. I'll sit back down now.
Yeah.
Some bloke would come charging out of the one of the patrons and just dive his hand into the hole
on the last hole.
What, not on the second hole.
Yeah, because it was like a big thing. Like this, the ball in the hole was a souvenir, and they'd all wrestle together and just dive into the hole. Yeah, brilliant. But
while they all putting like that,
don't know why the hunch thing was a thing.
Yeah, sorry for those listening. It's all like bend the arm, but your knees are all touching.
And they never barely
looks like you're making a mess of yourself.
Correct, and they barely used their shoulders. It was kind of like a wrist pop. And I think that was a lot to do with, interestingly, a lot of Asian players who used to come over to European Tour back in the 80s, 90s, would putt a bit like that because the grain of the greens, they couldn't cut them as short, so the greens were often slower. So they had to, rather than just creating a lovely smooth pendulum, they have to give it a wristy wrap. And I guess that was also a product of the time when agronomy wasn't quite as advanced. They couldn't cut the greens quite as short, so they were playing on slower greens. So they had to. That still doesn't explain the knock knees and the and the hunched over thing.
It makes me giggle every time I see it.
Yeah, it is a really strange thing. Nicklaus had a very interesting putting stroke where his head was set. I don't know. His eyes were probably a foot behind the ball. And he would look he'd twist his head so he's looking up the line. So, like when we were just playing pool downstairs, your head's behind the ball and you're looking straight up the line of play. It's quite a good thing because if your eyes are over the ball, he would be looking almost up the line of his putt with his head on a tilt. So that's another little Nicklaus gem for you there, Dan.
So much fun. We should do more of these.
Yeah.
These are really cool.
Yeah, the retro ones are good. I love finding that stuff out, like the grip stuff. Like,
that was because you're a grip man anyway. That was some age you just go.
What on earth?
Bananas.
I knew they were like leather wrap grips, and I
What's
like
coal tar.
Yeah,
Can't be healthy for you either.
And I'd love to if anyone knows the process, because the bit that I read was you kind of slap it on and then sand it down
as a hot liquid.
Yeah. So what point are you sanding it? Does it have to go off a little bit? Because if it goes off completely, you've lost the adhesive property then, haven't you? So I guess you've got to wait for the sweet spot of cold enough not to burn your hands off.
The Goldilocks temperature, you got to wait,
and
then give it a quick sand, and then while it's still got some adhesive properties, get your leather.
The Goldilocks, but yeah, really enjoyed that. Like learning that. Learned a lot of stuff I didn't know there.
I love learning.
Yeah, I love learning. Great stuff.
Right, let's go. I'm so hot. I can't.
This feels like a record app. What's the time, Johnny?
1:20. Oh, we've got 10 more minutes. Come on.
Wrap it up.
What are you doing this weekend?
Wrap it up. I'll tell you what I'm doing this weekend. You and I are off. We're off to the US. We're going on a US
baby.
tour,
I think we've teased this, and these will be coming out in a little while. We can't bring them out just yet.
Better be colder than this.
I think San Diego actually is.
Yeah,
which is good.
I hope so.
And then Phoenix is 45.
Cool.
Anyway, some special episodes coming from TPI, Titleist, The Kingdom, with TaylorMade and Ping's headquarters in Phoenix coming, I think, mid to end August, once enough embargoes have lifted. We're going to be asking questions to the top people over there. And it's not going to be a fluff fest. We're going to try and just bring you in.
We figured out a way to shoehorn some difficult questions in.
From you.
We've
received some already.
We have received some, yeah. So we don't have to then put ourselves on the line and say, we want to know why you release products so frequently or whatever, any awkward question, we're letting you do that. So we put it out on the Kickpoint socials, and you've got some humdingers, and it allows us to ask some difficult questions
without us seeming rude
coming from us.
But it's not gonna be a fluff fest about these brands. It's a good time to get some insight into what these guys are doing. And it's cool for us to be on the ground out there. So it's gonna be fun. We're doing that on Sunday. So all good. Don't know what's coming next week because we've not filmed it yet. Reviews, comments, likes, subscribes. Thank you genuinely for listening and watching this sort of whatever this is, because we enjoy doing it, don't we, Joe?
We do, yeah.
I hope
we
you
really do.
enjoying watching. Right, till next week. I'm gonna go ice bath. Should we get the bath?
Not for me.
Come on.
Okay, cool. See you in a bit. Meet you there.
Bye.